Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Titans mandatory mini camp practice is over for today. Select players will be available at the podium in a few moments. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. Around the NFL, the LA Chargers have released center Corey Linsley, a former Pro Bowl selection. Also yesterday, Christian McCaffrey getting a market-setting deal for a running back, 2-year extension in San Francisco, averaging $19 million per season. The Cleveland Browns have extended head coach Kevin Stefanski and general manager Andrew Berry, both entering their 5th season in Cleveland. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It's time, y'all. Greetings, Nash Vegas. He is Blaine Bishop, and I am Brett Hopkins. You got us till 3 o'clock, and we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We will keep our ears to the streets at 460 Great Circle Road to see if anyone interesting steps up to the podium as day 2 is taking off for the Titans mini camps. That's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brett Hopkins, and we are going to unpack a lot today. Hey, did I see that you were actually at the Sky Deck, Big B?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know you were a CMA fan. Are you? Yeah. And that's a fact. So how'd it go? I've never been there. How was it like?
That was actually my first time at the actual Sky Deck. So, yeah, it was really cool. A lot of different people, performers, and everything else. Really good. Yeah, I was beating my head and just, oh, man. I thought I was going to be deaf after because it was
So loud. Yeah. But it's a concert, though. You're supposed to be listening to the music, though. So.
I don't know. It's an open air rooftop. So
Okay.
Thinking, okay, it's a big area.
Yeah.
It'll be far away.
Did anybody recognize you? The great Blaine Bishop? Or
Yeah, of course people did, but I mean, that's not.
did you feel any Titans minicamp questions? No. No, I'm just saying, you were Blaine Bishop about town. I'm sure somebody has heard you in the midday in this slot, and they might have wanted to talk to you about something that you talked about.
Hey, Blaine, what you think that offense going to be like?
Exactly. Hey, Blaine, tell me about that.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's still too
early yet. We can try to make assumptions now, but it's way, way too early to really see how good the Titans are going to be, and all the procrastinators are, everybody else who's talking about them, who think the Titans are going to be horrible or going to be really good. Nobody really knows yet. I mean, they have to come together, so we'll see.
yeah, we do have our ears to the streets, and just in case someone does step to the podium that we want to hear from, we can always, jump into that. But we have heard a couple of conversations, one from Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator. We also heard from Denard Wilson. He had some pretty interesting things to say, the defensive coordinator, earlier today, and we'll jump into that too. As a matter of fact, he just talked about, Nick Holtz talked about Will Levis and his coaching ability. Do we have that audio, Hunk? Let's listen to that.
I think there's a part of with his base, he's really as coachable of a quarterback, I think, as you could find. He takes all the instruction. He doesn't really fight you on anything. He's got ideas and, hey, this is why I'm doing this. And he's got a really unique, I'm not sure I've ever been around a guy who's so in touch with all of his mechanical things. He's very focused on it, and he has a really big understanding of it all. So he's got a reason for why he's done it. But then if we show him stuff on film or, hey, this is why, he takes it to heart like that. And you can see the intention out there every time. Then he gets on the next day. It's been really impressive in that standpoint of, okay, they said this, let's do this, let's make this my focus of the day. And he's done that every day without fail. So it's been really cool from that standpoint. But
Hey, do you think, Blaine, that Will Levis being taken in that second round, obviously the first pick taken day 2, do you think that humbled him? Do you think that made him any different? Because the reason why I ask is because I remember in 2023, this collegiate kid coming out of Kentucky looking like and just acting like he was just the bee's knees. But then I guess that would be a pretty humbling experience if you were to sit there on draft night and not hear your name called and all the speculation and things that went along with that. So it seems like we have a more humble, appreciative quarterback than we've had in recent situations just because of, where he fell in the draft and where he was supposed to go.
So if he went in the first round, you think he wouldn't be humble?
No, if he went in the first round,
I'm saying that's what you're really saying, really.
If you're asking me, let me answer.
No,
if he actually went in the first round, I would expect him to kind of think things went along according to plan. The plan was changed when he went day 2, because I've heard so many times out of Will Levis's mouth of him being appreciative of the Titans taking a chance to aggressively move up in that second round and take him. They saw something in Will Levis that all 32 teams passed on in that first day, and they wanted to employ that to the point now where he is potentially the face of this franchise moving forward. So I just kind of wonder if, in fact, that day 2 pick didn't just kind of maybe do something different in his head.
Well, I think it's a little different. That's why I asked you that question, and that is that he should have been appreciative that he got drafted in the first round if that did happen. Even though it didn't happen, he still should have been appreciative. So to me, when you're scouting a player, you're also scouting, especially the quarterback who's going to be the forefront. He should be a humble guy already because of the position he's been in at a high-profile school from the jump. So that's why I asked that question, because to me, now, there's no doubt about it, when you go in the second round, I think some of his ego might have been hurt, but that doesn't mean it made him humble. I think that's who he is. So to me, because to me, you wouldn't be coachable. That's part of being humble. Those are all things tied together. So I think that's who he was from the beginning.
That's why I asked that question,
Right,
because we talked about him being coachable. Why is he coachable or more coachable, seeming to take instruction? Because, this is like we talked about yesterday, that dark closet of which he's now trying to figure his way out through. I don't think I see this through Caleb Williams. As a matter of fact, Jaden Daniels was rumored to not even want to go to the Commanders just because of, them, I guess, having him in camp with a bunch of other dudes. He thought he should have that exclusively, that time to kind of learn the team and them learn him. So there was obviously a discord that had been mentioned, but I wouldn't say that would affect his ability to get himself ready for this year being the guy. Either one of those two guys that were taken in the first 2
Well,
rounds.
I don't go by conjecture and rumors. I want to hear it from them actually themselves, because, people are trying to get headlines and writers are trying to get a name for themselves so they can take it to the next level. So I don't know if that was actually true. See, I'm the one who sits there and says, well, I don't know if that's actually true, because every time I hear Jaden Daniels speak on anything, he sounds like he's the most humble guy and would never say that he would not want to go to a team. See, so it doesn't add up. So some of the times you just got to read, with conjecture of people that maybe it's true and maybe it's not, but I can't take it for fact. So that's kind of my motto, really, because
No, I just said it just had
when
been
you're
mentioned.
coming out of at the draft, they're trying to find ways to break you down, and they're going to trying to leverage, and you don't know who's leveraging what, right? Remember, are there some people going to say something bad so a guy could drop so they can actually pick him?
Yeah, I didn't say anything about being fact. This was the conjecture that came out over the national airwaves. This is what people were
That's
saying.
What they were
It's just,
saying.
and I acknowledge it by
that
saying
was true. I just don't know if it's true. So I don't get into that. Really, I don't know. That's kind of what they want to do. And I'd say, well, we don't know if that's true or not. It gives us, farther to talk about, but I don't know if it's true. So I don't like to talk about negative stuff about people when we don't know if that's actually the truth.
Well, we're talking about coachability for Will Levis right here. We just heard from him and how he's responding to this new OC and the system that he's actually trying to employ. And Brian Callahan, of course, being the head coach and his devised plan. But we have seen in a number of instances where young guys that are tasked with learning a new system sometimes just get behind the 8 ball. Zach Wilson's the guy that had a number of different coordinators. Jalen Hurts had a couple of different coordinators before we saw him start to really solidify himself as that guy. This is year 2 in just as many years for Will Levis learning a new system. As a rookie, he had to learn to be behind Ryan Tannehill and learn what they were trying to do. And now going into this next year, his second year, it's a completely different ballgame. So obviously this is a guy that's being coachable, and he seems to be taking the type of instruction that would help him get better. And I think that's an admirable situation. I just don't see this conversation or hear this conversation coming out of Chicago. I don't hear it coming out of Washington. I don't hear it coming out of Minnesota, them talking about coachability and the things that this guy's able to do and taking one step closer to being the guy from one year to the next.
But it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
That's true. That's true.
So, I think I take things for granted, and that is I think he should be coachable. So to me, this is a kind of a point. We were coachable at that point in time, whether we were not the quarterback naturally, but at any point, young in your career, if you're not coachable, I don't know if I really want to even draft you. To be honest, I'm serious now. You have to be coachable. If not, then we need to move on. If you're going to be that stubborn, hard-headed dude out there that's playing and think you know everything, then guess what? I'm going to have to move on. I'm going to have to move on, so especially as a young player. But now, when you get to a veteran player, there are certain things you're going to lean on that you've done through your experiences. So when you're a young player going in the first and second year, I would hope that you're open to all dialogue, to have a quarterback, and then making changes here or there, whether it improves you or not. You need to see if it actually can. And then if it does, then you buy in. So, I kind of look at it that way. To me, there's no way. This is somewhat of a young team to a certain extent that all guys should be buying into everything. We're not talking about, offensive linemen buying into Callahan, because we know Callahan know what he's talking about,
Well,
right?
either Nick Holtz was asked the question about
Right.
coachability, or Nick decided to bring it up himself. But either way, the words came out of his mouth about coachability.
Well, it was
and
articles
Will
out there
Levis.
that he was coachable. That's been out there already. We saw nationally over the last, month.
Well, he addressed it yesterday or this morning. So.
Well, I'm talking about the articles that came out. There were articles out there that have been out there all over the place the last month talking about Will Levis and his coachability. Matter of fact, it was one we talked about last week where they were talking about how he made the wrong throw, and he said it before the coach said it, that he should have thrown it to this spot or to this guy during that play, even though he completed the ball on a deep ball.
Hey, Blaine's got perspective on Denard Wilson, who also took to the podium today and talking about his aggressiveness and his philosophy at the cornerback position. We'll get into that discussion, plus a lot more right here on 104.5 The Zone. That is Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins. And, of course, we're brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We'll be right back.
This summer, NASCAR is back at Nashville Superspeedway, June 28th through the 30th for Ally 400 race weekend. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. From the campgrounds to the track, and you won't want to miss the excitement. This is the fourth year that Ally has been an entitlement sponsor of the Ally 400. First Ally 400 in 2021 was the first NASCAR Cup Series race at Nashville Superspeedway since 1984. So be there this year and be part of history in the making. In the three previous Ally 400s, there have been three different winners. So come see who will take the checkered flag this year. And in Music City fashion, the Ally 400 will have a pre-race concert with a soon-to-be-determined artist. More details to come. So get your tickets now to watch your favorite drivers to take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. So visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com. That's NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot at the Rackley Roofing 200, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Ally 400 right now today.
Welcome back. That's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brad Hopkins. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We've been talking about the Titans minicamp, the mandatory minicamp. We've had a couple of coordinators step to the podium. I'm sure maybe between now and maybe at the end of the show, we'll hear from some players, maybe get their thoughts or some sound from them. But we do have some sound from offensive coordinator Nick Holtz. We do have some sound from defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. And that actually brings us to our second discussion. If you want to jump in at 737-1045, you can, because there were a couple of people that wanted to jump in and chime in on the coachability aspect that Blaine and I were just talking. But we did hear from Denard Wilson talking about the aggressiveness and philosophy of playing that cornerback spot. Now, Blaine, you backed up the corners being a safety. You were that dude that was hovering, making sure everybody was safe in the last line of defense. You know, what are your thoughts about what Denard... Actually, let's hear what Denard Wilson had to say first, and that way we'll get your thoughts there. This is Denard Wilson, defensive coordinator for the Titans.
Well, like I say, aggressiveness doesn't have to be sending more people. It's the mindset in which you play. Aggressiveness is, if I'm on the line of scrimmage, I'm knocking guys back. I'm setting edges violently. I'm building a wall up front with the D linemen. Aggressiveness is your linebackers reading your keys and coming downhill. And when they come downhill, you know, they're coming down with the intentions to run through people and knock running backs backwards. Aggressiveness is running from sideline to sideline and swarming the ball and defending every blade of grass. And then when you have that attitude and you play that way, and then when you add smart pressures or smart decisions, now you start to become more multiple. But to me, aggressiveness is a mindset. It's the way you go about your life on a daily basis. It's like this. Guys that are aggressive, you know, they normally don't fear failure. And, you know, I learned this a long time ago. It's false evidence appearing real. So if I don't fear failure and I can line up and play and read my keys and look at the right thing, I'm going to be aggressive in what I do.
Blaine, you couldn't fear failure as a guy that had to bet on himself, basically. Would you agree with what Denard Wilson's saying about that, you know, not fearing failure and basically playing aggressive? What's the correlation there?
Well, you're right about parts of that. For me is I had nothing to lose.
Wow.
So that's how I always looked at it. Because you talk about, you know, what people would say about a first rounder. Well, they were saying I wasn't going to make the team.
Right.
See, so I was like, well, what I got to lose then? I took that mindset. So that kind of continued on to my career, and then you just kind of work on different things and get good coaching along the way, and then next you know, you're in a position of now you've waited for your opportunity and you seize the moment. But when you're aggressive, I really love that mindset because I feel like I'm listening to Greg Williams, and I get chill bumps every time I hear Denard Wilson speak. He is Greg Williams, just more sophisticated and no cuss words. That he's saying all the same things. He is. I resonate every time I hear him speak because that is how you're supposed to be on defense. And you can kind of go through his history and see where he's been. I'm interested to see what kind of things he implemented from the Ravens that he learned, who now their defensive coordinator is the head coach of the Seahawks, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he learned some things from there. They'll take pieces from there. And I think that's why they signed corners. Because guess what? He wants to be aggressive.
Yeah.
He wants to be aggressive, and he knows on the outside, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you got to be aggressive because you got to dictate tempo, disrupt timing, because that's what offense is about timing. So they can get the ball off, but guess what? The receiver may not be in the spot that he needs to be at. So I really love it. We won't be hearing any more conversations, about why didn't the Titans play press and they were playing 8 yards off and it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 5. Oh, we won't be having those kind of conversations. That will not be happening. So I love it. I actually love it. And I just hope he has the right pieces in place, though. And that takes time to get those pieces all together. And it starts that's why he keeps saying we're going from the back end to the front end, is because he knows if you're getting after the quarterback, it starts with the corners to a certain extent, and actually the pass rush.
Yeah.
But you can, sublink that with, different players blitzing and rushing or showing 4 over here and then come with 3 on the other side because they change their protection schemes, and then you come from the other side and one guy comes scot-free. So that's what I hear when I hear him talk. But you can see the excitement and the intensity that I get just listening to him, man. That you don't want to play for any coordinator that doesn't speak in those words to me. So I completely agree with him.
Yeah, that was Denard Wilson talking about the aggressive nature, his philosophy. He was also asked about, playing that A and B gap which seems to be where the Titans are best suited, having drafted Tavondre Sweat, that big old 350-pound space eater, along with Jeffrey Simmons, Big Jeff. You know, nobody's running on these guys between the tackles. And he also talked about pressing everything. Do you think that his ability or confidence to press everything, like he just mentioned, comes from Cheeto and Legarius, that type of talent at the cornerback spot? Or can you just basically get that done with anybody that's on the edges out there?
Oh, no, it takes us. I think that's why they signed the cornerbacks. Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, that when you're saying press, that means it doesn't mean you always are reaching out press. You could be press belling, disguising.
Oh, so up at the line of scrimmage and dropping off.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's different formats of things what you do, or you could be at 5 and then you're pressing him from there and making it look like it's still 2, but it's not. Yes, but at the same time is you got to have guys that are aggressive, that are comfortable to be in those situations. It takes a comfortable guy. And I played with 2 guys who was like that in Samari Rowe and Denard Walker. That's what they were. They wanted to press. They didn't want to be, I got to read number 2 to 3 and then I got to do this. Nope. I want to know I got my guy.
Reacting.
Right.
Reacting. Go.
So, and they both were 2 different styles. Denard Walker was more press, get his hands on. Samari Rowe was like, no, I'm that assassin. I can run with anybody. And my athleticism, I'm going to line up in front of you. Even if I don't try to press you, I'm going to just run with you. And then I'm going to make a play on the ball like I'm a wide receiver. 2 different styles, both for press. See, so you got to go with your style. And that's why he went with guys that are used to being in those kind of situations. And that's why they went after some cornerbacks and signed him.
Did you play faster the older you got? You know what I mean by that, right?
But no, yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. It's funny you say that because nobody's ever asked me that question. Once I learned where my eyes were supposed to be, I probably stayed the same my entire time all the way to the end. I was a Pro Bowl alternate, first alternate my last year in the league. So even when I lost a step, I still was where I was supposed to be before most. And most guys are living off of athleticism.
Yeah.
And not where their eyes supposed to be. And at some point when you losing a little bit of athleticism, then all of a sudden then you need to know where you're looking, and some guys just don't. I mean, I would say Michael Griffin probably was for the Titans, the most athletic safety in the Titans history.
Wow.
The most athletic.
Bubba McDowell, all those guys?
Yeah, most athletic.
Okay.
I said Titans history.
So you said Titans. Yeah, you did.
But he was more athletic than Bubba McDowell even too. This dude is the most athletic safety in Titans history, or Oilers Titan history. Yeah, athleticism. We all know Burks is a great athlete, right?
For sure.
Right. But when he start losing his athleticism, and then he to have his eyes where he needs to be, I had to reach out to him because it was irritating me, because I was like, man, I'm 40 years old and I could have beat you to that spot. So you don't have your eyes where they need to be. Because then now he couldn't rely on all his prowess of his athleticism, to play the position. And there was no slash on him. It was just that he got used to doing it and he got in a comfortable spot. So, but then it ended just abruptly. Remember, he went to the Vikings and it was done.
Yeah.
And he could still play. He still had a lot of athleticism left.
Being where your eyes are, basically, your hands in your eyes. He mentioned making mistakes is from not knowing what you're doing. That's when you generally make mistakes. But once you know what you're doing, those mistakes should come down to a minimum. So,
yes.
Once you know, there's no excuses, basically, right? Once you know what you're doing.
Well, I think what people are getting confused, just this staff in general.
Yeah.
They think they're all nice guys. Like, this is total different than Vrabel. No, that's not what this staff is going to be about. They're going to know what they're supposed to say to the public, but behind the scenes, they are going to get after it.
I knew you were
no
say
doubt
that.
about it. No doubt about it. Especially on the defense side, because I know of some of these guys who have been part of teams that they were on the staffs.
Yeah.
So, I know what they're bringing to the table. But they also are going to build that trust and that relationship where guys don't take it personal when you get in their butt. Like, And everybody's going to be held to the same standard.
Yeah.
There's no going to be, no favoritism to a guy. It is what it is. The line is drawn here, and this is how we play. If you don't play that way, bye-bye birdie.
Bye-bye birdie. 737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in the discussion, you can. He also mentioned, Denard did, and we'll get to some more sound from him in just a second, pads will separate everyone.
You should know that better than anybody.
And you're right, because, the position I played was very physical and was very violent. But what we're talking about is it's one thing to be in place, right? Understand schematically where you're supposed to be. But it's also a different situation when now the physical element is a part of the practice. And we won't see that until they put on the hats and shoulder pads. later on in the year. But, just your thoughts about that. Everybody looks great in shorts, right?
Well, I feel bad for the lineman because it is a big difference for you guys.
Totally.
Because then all the defensive guys think they beat you the whole time. When in reality, they're like, come on, man. I mean, really? Like, okay. So it does. And I've been duped. So that's when I had to learn about players and how good they were. I'm like, oh, man, this guy's going to help us out a lot, man. You get to the OTAs. You're like, oh, man, this guy's going to be good. Then we go to pass. I was like, oh, my God. What happened?
It's like watching a spring game. You'll see a spring game and a guy will show out. You think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
You get to the fall and you don't even hear from the guy for the entire season.
That intensity turns up a little bit at practice. Yeah, that one there, man. So you got to wait till the pads on to really judge anybody. And I know we're up, watching guys now saying who's doing well, and I'm doing the same thing. But in reality, they got to get the pads on for whether you're on the front end of the offensive defensive line to even on the back end. It's a difference.
Do you know when brothers fight all the time at home, right?
I don't know. I have a brother.
Well, for those of us that have brothers.
You do, though. So, tell us.
Yeah. Well, my brother and I are a little bit we're 4 years apart. I'm physically a lot bigger than he is.
Oh, you older or younger?
4 years older.
Okay.
But the thing is, I would say that especially those siblings that are close in age, sometimes they get into it. There's a little friction because they love each other, whatever else. And that's the way offenses and defenses are, particularly in training camp. But what I also find interesting and fun is when they reach that uncommon opponent, that maybe first or second preseason game. Now, preseason is preseason, right? But when you see that offense, your offense, go up against that other team's defense, you then turn into a fan of your offense. You've been fighting them every day in training camp.
Oh, absolutely.
But now when you're playing against the Colts or when you're playing against the Eagles or somebody else, you get on the sideline and stand up for those boys. So I can't wait to reach that moment. I know everything's pretty much new here. We've got new coordinators. We've got a new head coach. Some new faces around the building, whatever. But I think as we get closer towards training camp and the conclusion of training camp during preseason, we'll start to see these guys, come together, play cohesive, even though they're both different sides of the football. I think that's always a pretty interesting thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's been involved in sports for a long time. So that happens naturally. Just because you're going to get someone in practice and they dominated you one day and you dominated them another day. I mean, you don't have any personal grudge. We're all trying to get to the same spot. Yeah. And that's to be the best team you can be and to be best individual player within the scheme and system that you're running and trying to get to a Super Bowl and winning it. So I think that just happened naturally for me. Just got to make sure everybody's communicating on both sides of the ball. It's really about communication, how you come together and play as one on both sides of the ball. Even though we're separated at times, you're still really one unit when you go out there, and you got to play off of one another. And so with that being said, though, I'm interested to see, it brings me to this thought, how this scheme, defensive scheme, matches up with the offensive scheme. And when I say that, I'm talking about, is this going to be a 50-50 or is it going to be more of a pass-happy offense? And then all of a sudden on the other side, you have a really aggressive-natured defense. Is that good matchup there? It's always interesting. Or are you going to play it by ear as the game goes along? In-game adjustments really kind of dictates how you play. You go in with the mindset of what we're going to do, but is this the game not to be aggressive if you're the defensive guy? Is this the game on offense to be aggressive and go downtown a lot, not dink and dunk? These are the things I had issues with Vrabel. Every game was the same game. No, every game is not. Every game is its own game, and every drive is a different drive based off what they are actually doing in the game. So you could still throw the ball, but you could throw sharp passes, and that's really part of the running game. You know where I learned that from? Andy Reid. I said, man, we throw the ball a lot. He said, I don't know. Sharp pass game is a run game. It's a pass. It's a run. I threw the ball 2 yards, and he ran 5 more yards. That was a running play in his eyes. See, so you now have to understand how offenses think so you can then counter it on defense. So I'm interested to see if they do all those things in Callahan and all his play calling and been part of developing quarterbacks and been around all these offensive gurus. I'm interested to see how much excitement we see, and do we see 30 points a game? Yeah. I'll just be happy for that. With a win.
What I thought was very interesting was Denard admitting that, of course, offenses, when they get to the line of scrimmage and they see what front you're in, when they see what defense you're in, we have the ability to audible and to change into something else. He said they do too. So when you take the line of scrimmage, when you see the offense break and you see certain personnel, and you start to line up as such, you might recognize something different and they're like, hey, you know what? Adjust. And then the next thing you know, you get into some other different look to try and offset what it is that
Do you
they're
never
doing.
remember any defenses doing that to y'all?
I don't remember defenses calling it out because we would actually go up to the line of scrimmage with a number of different situations,
Right.
where there was a guy that was lined up close to me or somebody that was out wide, or maybe it was a 4-3 look versus a 3-4 look or something different like that. We'd always have a plan in place for blocking whatever we saw. So there wasn't always a lot of time.
So y'all didn't see the big picture. Y'all just saw kind of what's in front of y'all based off
I'm not
offensive linemen.
Yeah, I'm not too much worried about what they're doing in the secondary unless they're standing in the box, unless they come down and I've got more
totally
bodies to worry
different
about.
viewpoint.
Yep,
I haven't been in the defense that we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Not ever.
Hey, let's hear another sound clip from Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator for the Titans.
It's very intentional for me. For me, I believe press or less. Like, I want them to line up, and I want them to be in front of receivers and challenge the receivers. Ultimately, in this game, if you get free access, it's easy for the quarterbacks to complete balls. So what I do is I want to create hesitation at the line of scrimmage and make them earn it the hard way. Make them earn it, throw the 50-50 ball, but everything else we're going to challenge.
How do you approach that? Do you leave it open to them to do it, or it's you telling them?
From day one, we press everything.
Day one, press everything. And that lends into that aggressive nature. 737-1045 is the number. We got a guy that wants to talk about what we've been talking about. Matter of fact, he's got a question about the Titans coaches. He's Jack in Hermitage. Jack, welcome in. You're on with Blaine and Brad. How are you, sir? Let's bring him up. There we go.
I was struck by the new center Cushenberry's response when he came on board that a big reason he came here was to be coached by Coach Callahan Sr. And I was wondering, Brad, if you were still in the business, would that have been a consideration for you?
1,000%, Jack. It's all about coaching. As a matter of fact, I'm just a fat tight end playing tackle. That's what I did for 13 seasons. The only reason why I lasted as long as I did, Jack, is because I had great coaches around me. I had Mike Munchak, who was my left guard when I first came into the league. I played with him for a year. He then became our assistant offensive line coach. I leaned on him for almost every single thing that I was trying to learn. I had a number of different offensive line coaches, and the reason why I can speak to this, and they weren't Mike Munchak, in my opinion. I learned just as much from Bruce Matthews, who became my left guard for 10 years, as I did anything else. So it really does come down to the coaching, because offensive line play is about technique. I mean, you can be 6'8", 360 pounds and run a 4.9 and be super athletic and super strong, but if you don't have the technique that comes along with it, those defensive linemen will eat your lunch, because they're doing every single thing they can to take your strengths away from you. And the only way you can combat that is by having good, sound technique and good fundamentals. So the fact that Bill Callahan, who coached me in my second Pro Bowl, I understood the value of a guy that has seen so much and that is an excellent teacher more than anything else.
They're teaching at the Pro Bowl?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I saw it.
That.
Yeah, in some situations, you're just talking about getting to the tea time, right? Because this is just
That's what the dudes was saying every day. I remember Junior saying, hey, we
Junior
out.
Saying, how many times
we out. We out. I was a late grade Junior saying, I'd be like, Coach, we are out. I was like,
let's go.
We can do
get
that?
things done. Yeah. Junior could do that. I don't know if we could do that.
Well, the practice was over. I don't know how much coaching was going on there.
But that was a great call, Jack, and thank you for that. But just kind of listening to what Denard was saying, just about that aggressiveness, about pressing, about doing some of those things that I'm not going to say weren't customary here, but it does seem like that's kind of a moniker that he would like to have established as a consistency. This is what we do. I also thought it was interesting him saying that, because we have had conversations, Blaine, about some later additions that might come down the road, edge rusher, maybe a tight end, some positions like that. But it didn't sound like he was too pressed about the edge rushers because of what we have on the inside and what we have in the secondary.
Well, I mean, I feel like it all has to come together, but I think he's a very confident, young DC who's saying, hey, man, we got enough pieces to the puzzle to make some things happen this year. If we go at them, we're going to add them, but our mentality is not going to change.
Yeah.
So I think that's who he is, and that's what everybody better get ready on. Not only as a defensive player, but actually the teams you're going to be facing. So it's going to be really neat. Like if you're another team, you're playing the Titans before you play any game, like that first game versus the Bears. What defense are you watching? But if you the Bears, to get a gauge on who
they are.
Right.
Yeah, right, because he's been in some of these things.
Right, see?
Yeah.
So that it's going to be it. That's why I'm hoping Caleb Williams has a bad day and you kind of, disguise some things and makes him throw one right to a guy.
Make him think.
Right.
Yeah, get him thinking back there.
That first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, one thing I really find obviously polarizing, but I just can't understand why it's so topical, is why we're still continuing to talk about Treylon Burks, who is basically a non-starter. So when we come back, we want to get your thoughts about Treylon Burks' future as a Tennessee Titan. We know now he's number 4 in the depth chart, and usually they only start 3, and we'll find out what that actually looks like for him. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins. We're brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We'll be right back.
Nashville summer storms are making a splash, and we're not just talking about the rain. So don't wait until the dark to get here, and your whole home generator is what you need to get fixed, right? So act now and keep your family comfortable through any storm. Speaking of storms, it's time to shield your home with a surge protection. So score $50 off when you book one now, because why let lightning crash your party? Feeling like your electrical panels are stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you can even upgrade now and save $200 with our sizzling summer promotion. So let's bring your home into the 21st century. But wait, there's more. Dive into our plumbing summer promos. Replace the old water heater and score $500 off a tankless 1 or 2 or so, $250 off a tank model. Yes, don't let a cold shower ruin your summer vibes. Worried about what lurking in your water? Well, get peace of mind with free water quality testing in each house that you have. Maybe you have 2 or 3, or maybe just one house. You want to make sure your water is quality. So stop now and don't let this drain stop you from drinking your water. And let us tackle them with our $93 free drain cleaning. So if we can't clear your drain, it's on us, and we will pay for it. Nashville. So why sweat it out right now for Cool Ray? So keep it cool with Cool Ray all day, all the time. So let's make your summer a breeze and visit coolray.com, or you can give them a call at 615-570-0900. That's 615-570-0900. Cool Ray, keeping everything cool and everything right, and lights bright.
Last segment of the first hour. He's Blaine, I'm Brad. We did tease in the last segment the questions surrounding Treylon Burks. Now, anytime you're a first rounder, you're picked for a reason. One, you're probably pretty good as a young player. You know what I mean? But also you're filling a need that need to be filled more immediate than, say, later in the draft. So that's where we come with Treylon Burks, him basically replacing A.J. Brown, who was traded to the Eagles, and it not necessarily looking like A.J. Brown when he started taking the lineup. So that's probably part of the reason, but I'm asking anybody. 737-1045, I'm going to ask B. Why are we spending so much time talking about a non-starter with all of this star-studded receiving room that we have now?
I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you even said that he was going to be having a good year, right? And I was like, how can he have a good year when he's already number 4?
Yeah.
I mean, it's because he went in the first round. There's no question. He has talent. He has some good ability that should be translating into some numbers. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, whether he was sick or injured or just the opportunities weren't there, it hasn't happened. And so naturally, there's going to be questions when you're a first-round pick and 3 years in, and you have a total of, I don't know how many yards he has. I don't know, 800 yards total over a couple years or so. So I don't know.
665.
Yeah. So that you can't have that. So that's why. As much as I like him as a person, and I think, man, you feel like you feel for him and you want him to do well. The Titans have kind of taken that into their own hands by signing, a veteran receiver, 2 of them, and already having a proven player on their team in D-Hop. So that tells you right there what they're thinking, regardless of what people are saying about, we have a first-round pick. Well, they're telling you that if he doesn't get his stuff together and stay healthy, he's already at 4. He may not even be here. So, it's kind of interesting how that works. And now, more than ever, it's not during our time, the first-round pick doesn't get a pass like, we're going to develop them. Even the quarterbacks now, they got to be instantly good. It's got the money's at stake. And so now I think that's kind of changed a little bit, more so than not. You got to show some things early, and then, as time goes on, the second year, you start showing that you the guy. Let's look at, whoever you want to. Justin Jefferson, what pick was he? What pick?
I don't know what
he was first round, wasn't he?
First rounder, yeah, but I don't know
first
what pick
rounder.
it was. Yeah.
And so you're expecting that. And then the expectation because of who was traded. Unfortunately, that's unfair to him. But that's what the expectations are. You were replacing A.J. Brown. I mean, sorry, but, we need production. And at the end of the day, this league is all about, what you can produce. And if you don't produce, you won't be here for long. And that's what the NFL really stands for as a player, not for long.
I thought it was no fun league.
Not for
Hey, let's go to Lebanon and bring in Ryan. He wants to talk about Treylon Burks. Ryan, welcome in. You're on with Blaine and Brad. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are y'all? I love the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Yeah, so same thing that Blaine was hitting on, man. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick. He got traded for A.J. Brown, and to be honest, fans are checked out. And when, like Blaine said, when you don't produce, not for long, you ain't gonna be here long, man. And he needs to make some plays this year for people to really say, you know what, maybe that was a good first-round draft pick. But other than that, man, everybody's checked out on him. You guys have a great day. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. I will say that there are a lot of that. I agree with what Ryan was saying, but I also, just like you talked about, I thought that Treylon Burks would have a better year with not as much expectation, not as much pressure, seeing as how he won't be a starter this year. I think that if you see Treylon Burks get into the lineup, and let's just say he's targeted 50 times and makes some explosive plays within those 50 plays that he gets, now you start to see them maybe scratch their head or start to look about next year and see what happens, because he's still in the contract. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the big 3, we're going to call it the big 3. Okay. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd. Right? Well, I don't know. The Celtics got 2, Jaylen Brown. And
back in
the day.
Yeah, back in the day, the Miami Heat, everybody had the big 3 in the NBA.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 championships.
That didn't happen.
But Calvin Ridley obviously just signed a 4-year deal. He got the bag. Tyler Boyd's on a 1-year deal, and as is DeAndre Hopkins, with 2025 being voidable. So this might be a situation where we revisit who Treylon Burks is, and hopefully for his sake, he has learned some from Brian Callahan's offense that's put him in a better position.
So far in Treylon's career, he's averaging a little under 2 catches per game. Does he have more than that in 2024?
Depends on the targets.
Because Blaine was talking about, or I think it was Brad, you talked about 50 receptions, like 50 targets. That's what he got in his first season as a Titan. He had 54 targets. He made 33 catches, had over 440 yards receiving and a touchdown. Is that something that you could see in 2024 as the number 4 wide receiver at the least? Again, thinking that everybody's going to be healthy.
The only reason why I'm saying yes is because something those older receivers are seeing. You wouldn't hear D-Hop get in there talking about him being so super athletic. You wouldn't hear Tyler Boyd talk about him being, a big, strong, fast dude and all these things if he weren't playing like that. Now, admittedly, this is, just the kind of a dress rehearsal. Nobody's got on pads. We're not asking him, Denard Wilson's guys to press him at the line of scrimmage and get off the press and all kinds of things like that. But, we are starting to see something from him that makes it seem quietly optimistic that he can do something within that number 4 role. Maybe it is special teams.
But no, and I get what your point. No player is going to say anything bad. It's just the extreme that they went. To me, then it was actually did him a disservice. Saying that he could be T.O., A.J. Brown, and all these people combined. He has all those kind of skill sets. Then why haven't we seen it? Matter of fact, the person we're asking, you wouldn't even be here if he was that. See, so, so I just, and I know they want to be nice and they're trying to, that's just, they got to get a little more skilled in the training. Say, hey, he's got a lot of production. He's got a lot of growing to do. Hopefully this will be the year for him. That's it. You keep it start. I mean, because right now he hasn't done it. And if you don't produce, you're not going to be here very long. Matter of fact, we put a poll question out about if he's going to be more of a special teamer, a starting wide receiver, or will he be traded? And I think it's going to be the latter.
Yeah, between those.
Because do you know the Bengals' 4th wide receiver last year?
I have no idea.
And neither do I, and that's Treylon Burks on the Titans. Treylon Burks is the 4th wide receiver, and we don't know him.
Yeah, that poll is out on our X feed at 1045 The Zone. And of those three options that Blaine just said, right now, 22% of the people think that Treylon Burks is going to be traded. That is his future with the Titans.
All right.
12%.
As long as nothing happens to anybody in training camp. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, as long as nobody
injuries.
gets hurt,
Yeah.
we're all banking on everybody being healthy. But as long as everybody stays healthy going into week 1, people think that he's going to get traded.
And here's what I would do as an organization. I would, if I am actually trying to trade him, I am highlighting him all over the place
Get him on
in
the field.
preseason.
Get him on the field.
We dropping dimes. He was number 1.
You mean like talking about like how he's A.J. Brown and how he's T.O. and how he's all of those together?
Maybe they got in DeAndre's ears and say, hey, DeAndre, talk him up a little bit. We're trying to get him on this trading block. Could possibly be. Hey, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for hour number 1. When we come back, though, we're going to turn our attention to the tight end position because that's been talked about, too, from the coordinators over at 460 Great Circle Road. Stick around for much more right here on The Zone. That's Blaine Bishop, and I'm Brad Hopkins, and we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop. I want to know if you have heard about peptides. Peptides are shaking up the fitness world. They are naturally occurring aminos in your body. And as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. And this is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. And maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all of the freaking time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings and got to get that nap in, right? So if you've had that thought, this is just a normal part of aging. It doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, help with recovery between workouts, and more. Peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are safe, natural occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals, a natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptides Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. And that's what I did. So feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com or call 615-724-1878. 615-724-1878.
Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Joe Hunk. Titans mandatory mini camp happening today. Afterwards, actually before camp started for the day, Denard Wilson as well as Nick Holtz talked with the media. And just in case you're kind of lagging as you're going through the rest of your afternoon, just listen to Denard Wilson. He'll get you fired up.
To me, aggressiveness is a mindset. It's the way you go about your life on a daily basis. It's like this. Guys that are aggressive, they normally don't fear failure. And, I learned this a long time ago. It's false evidence appearing real. So if I don't fear failure and I can line up and play and read my keys and look at the right thing, I'm going to be aggressive in what I do.
Coming up, we now know when and Alabama, or I should say Tennessee, who cares about Alabama, is going to be playing as they're going to be hosting Evansville this weekend in the Super Regionals. Friday, game 1 is going to be at 2 p.m. Central. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Vols. We are the flagship station for your Tennessee Titans. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to hour number 2. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins. Tomorrow night, the NBA Finals will start, the Celtics and the Mavs. And on Friday, just like Hunk just mentioned, the Tennessee Vols baseball team take the mound against the Evansville Aces, shockingly enough. I've been listening to some of the other shows, too, especially with Buck Rising and Bert. Bert's from East Carolina, I do think there's a bet where he has to wear something crazy.
Yeah, he's got dressed up as the lead singer of Korn.
Oh, that is?
How does the
lead
singer
braided?
Well, that's
right.
part
That's
of
what it is. He's getting his hair rolled, isn't he?
It's all part of it because he's dressing up as the lead singer of Korn, who has dreads, and so he's got
that's why
to
he's doing
get
it.
it.
Oh, okay. Now I get it. That totally makes sense. Hey, we teased in the last segment, basically switching to tight ends. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I could be definitely wrong on this situation. With such a fast break style offense that Brian Callahan likes to employ, it'd almost be harder for him to get more than one tight end on the field at the same time. So I'm saying 11 personnel is probably something that he's going to feature a lot. So what does that say for the tight end room? We saw Chiga Okonkwo have kind of 2 different seasons last year. He ended on a strong note in the very beginning of it, and towards the middle wasn't as effective or, maybe part of the plan. Josh Wiley's the guy that they drafted in the 5th round last year. What kind of impressions are he leaving with the team? They brought in Nick Vanette through free agency. He's a former Charger. Obviously got some experience to him. And there have been a couple of other dudes that'll be in there, maybe some camp bodies and whatnot. But to me, the tight end is almost a pivotal spot, because it is, in some instances, an extension of 2 different positions. It's an extension of the offensive line when you've got 6 bodies up front that are trying to protect. It's also an extension of the receiving core when you put them in a slot, or even you run them from the line of scrimmage into different routes and different combinations and things like that. I'll be just curious to see how Brian Callahan will be using the tight end, and may we still be on the horizon looking for another one?
Wow, that's a great question. He said earlier, and not this camp, but one of the camps, he said we were going to sign, he wanted to have 6 tight ends in camp. I didn't know if he meant that camp or maybe training camp. Because they didn't go sign anybody.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't know what. Do you remember that, Hunk?
He talks about how he wants a bunch of options in the tight end position because during the offseason, the tight end room was very bare.
Do you have that, Joe, or no?
It was from 2 camps ago.
A couple camps ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just recall it. And then now look, because when you look at the offense that the Bengals ran, the tight end was, to your point, 11 personnel was what they were doing a lot of. And wasn't there was one year in 2021, I think, where the Hurst or Azuma had 53 catches, but that was a one-time occurrence because they like getting the ball to their playmakers. I think it can be a safety valve, but they're used somewhat like not only a tight end, but also the slot receiver. So I don't know how much they'll be utilized. I think maybe it'll be game to game, but can't say the offense is the same because the Titans maybe the receivers aren't quite as good or not. We talking about Jamar Chase Younger, T. Higgins really leading. Then you had Boyd, which we stole. So we signed him. So it's just I just don't know how much the tight ends will be. Right. And Chick starting off slow last year. I partly blame coaching in my mind because they was treating him like he was already a proven player after his first year, and he didn't hardly play any in the preseason. Nuh-uh. You got to prove it every year, especially a young player. You hadn't already made it. So I think then he had some drops early in the season.
Right.
And then his confidence was shot a little bit. And then it was rekindled. Then he kind of started getting the flow and got back. So you just got to, make sure you try to fit with that. And to me, I'm a little different. I think all players should be playing in the preseason. And learned all that from Andy Reid. And you saw what Andy Reid was doing. Mahomes, the MVP, the best player in the NFL, was playing every game. So that should tell you a little bit about how important it is to at least get some timing down and some reps, whether even if it's just 12 plays. And so I thought that was a misstep there. And he was actually the only one, and maybe even Tannehill. I wanted Tannehill to play too. Just because he had sat out so long in the offseason. You get a little rust after the surgery, and you want to come back and see if he could still be the same player he was the year before. I don't know. I wouldn't be all pressed about the tight ends. I want to get some receivers and more playmakers. But, I think Chig and Wiley in their second and third years, I think they'll be productive, solid tight ends. I'm not real concerned, especially how they were utilized in previous, Callahan, head coach Callahan. I'm going to call him Junior Callahan, as in his office that he ran. So, and we shall see. He may want another veteran maybe. But make sure that guy's versatile. I don't like one-dimensional players. Not just, he's just a great run blocker or he's just a great catcher. I want the versatile player. Because what happens is you're giving tea leaves to the defense. When you bring in certain personnel, you're telling them what you're doing. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's why I want versatile players. You should be able to do everything. You're a tight end. You got to be able to block. You got to put your nose up in there. Just get in the way. You don't got to be blow him down and just do enough. You think Shannon Sharp was blocking people? But he was getting in their way.
Yeah.
He was getting in their way.
So when you talk about players coming in, and in the play, is it very similar to when a particular running back is on or off the field about, if he is going to be used or be the focus of an offense?
Well, absolutely.
Guy that wears a crown.
Right. You're talking about the king. Absolutely, there were tea leaves there. But it's also formation. But they also then use him as play action pass, too. So it can help you in both ways. But you have to change that up game to game. Now, you could say, okay, we've run on first down almost the last 3 games every time. How about just play action pass, dump it to the tight end in a flat. Bam, we got him. Yeah. We've done it 3 games in a row. They know we're going to run the king. Nope, what we do, get the king and he run into a brick wall.
Got a quick story for you.
What are you doing?
David Williams was the right tackle, first rounder from Florida when I came in. And I remember Bruce and them getting on him one time. They were like, man, that right side of the defensive line, left side of the defensive line, our right side, seems to know everything we're doing. Mm-hmm. And as they looked down the line of scrimmage, they said, Dave, do you have your hand on the ground during run plays? And are you in a 2-point stance during pass plays?
Right.
And he's like,
I pick up on all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
You don't think that you're tipping them on what we're doing? You're down on running, up on pass.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what you're talking about. But we do also have offensive coordinator Nick Holtz's thoughts about the tight end position. Go ahead, Joe. Play that.
I think it's important for us right now to have as much depth as possible. So we want as many guys that can do as many jobs and not kind of be pigeonholed of Josh is this guy, Chig is this guy, Nick Vanette, whatever, Thomas, all the guys are these are their roles. So in the offseason, it's been more, let's see how much all of them can do. And at some point, I think everybody'd love to have, Travis Kelce and say that this is our guy and those kind of things. But I think it's also important for us with the depth piece to keep building up. And they're all young players, so I don't think we really want to limit right now what any of them can do in that regard.
None of them are Travis Kelce or George Kittle.
Does that sound like to you like he's just going, you know what? I'm not really impressed by this tight end room right now.
But you know what, though, Joe? I think that there are probably 28 other teams in the league that are saying the same thing. Because there's only a handful of dudes that really make that much of a difference, like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller back in the day, Mark Andrews from the Ravens, these kind of guys that are really the safety valve for a quarterback. And I think it's not necessarily an insult to our tight end room to say that we don't have a dude that's that pivotal, but there are, like he just mentioned, situations where they'd like to have depth. Because if you think about it, the tight end position is probably the most mismatchable position because you've got guys that are big, strong, and fast, right? Probably bigger than the guys that are trying to tackle them or faster than them in instances. It just depends what the matchup is. And I just think he's acknowledging the fact that we're not going to go through the tight end, much like we see Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes had that kind of connection. Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews had that kind of connection. Brock Purdy and George Kittle had that kind of connection. We have yet to establish that. And I'm not sure, like Blaine was mentioning, what tight end we have that could actually even have that kind of connection, or even how he'd be used in this offense to do that.
So let me ask you guys, today, after we get done with this, the next practice the Titans are going to be having is training camp, right?
Yep.
So do you believe that the tight end one on the depth chart today is going to be the tight end one when the Titans go to Chicago week 1, or is that guy even on the roster yet?
Blaine, my thoughts are that if there's somebody available right now, there's a reason. One, he's probably super expensive, and maybe he's waiting for, later in training camp because he's an older player, more established, and I'm not sure what the free agency list looks like for tight ends that are available at this point. Or he sucks, and there's a reason why he's available, because no one's going to sign him unless there's a camp body that they need or a subsequent injury. So I just think that this roster might be set with the tight end group that we see. I don't think there's anything wrong with Chig. Chig will probably look different this year under Brian's system than he did last year under last year's system. But for the most part, I think that you're not going to find a dude that's on the street that's going to do a better job than the ones that we already have in the building. What do you think, B?
Yeah, I'm somewhat right there in line with you. I think, there may be a guy that may get released because of money that may be potentially.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's why I said I'm in line with you. But there's always an exception, right?
Yeah.
There's always an exception. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't take what he said as an insult. As a matter of fact, if I'm sitting there as a player, I think what's happened here in just society in general is they don't like coaches to be honest, and they just been honest. This coach has been honest. We don't have any Hall of Fame level type, Pro Bowl type player on our team right now. That's basically what he said. That's being honest.
Basically.
Right, yeah, he being honest. That doesn't mean that on one day that one of these guys could be our leading receiver in a game and help contribute a lot.
Right.
So, it's also another form of being passive aggressive as a coach, but yet you're not demeaning the actual player. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I didn't feel like it was insult. Matter of fact, you should take it as motivation and say, hey, man, I'm going to go out here and show them that I can be that dude. Why not? So I'm going to get some opportunities. I got to seize my opportunities. And if I don't, then obviously then I didn't get it done. It's just that factual and in your face. I mean, and that's what I love is the honesty and upfrontness, and there's no hiding behind the curtain. So as I said, this how this it's funny. He said something that can be demeaning, but it didn't feel demeaning.
Right.
See that? That's how you go about coaching this generation of Gen Z type players.
You know why? Because facts are a stubborn thing.
Right. you can't have them. It is what it is. Like, hey, man, I'm being honest with you.
Yep.
We got to get it done.
We're going to take a look around the entire NFL with CBS Sports' very own Jordan Dajani. Yes, you've heard him here because you hear him here every week, and he'll be joining Blaine and I next. Stick around for more right here on The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of the backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Welcome back. He's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brad Hopkins. It is now time for us to turn our attention to the entire NFL and bring in CBS Sports' very own Jordan Dajani. Jordan, I saw where you were on X. That's Twitter, if you haven't figured that out yet. You have one burning question for every AFC South team entering 2024. Now, you know the team that we're curious about, and it ain't the Texans, Jags, or Colts.
Well, kind of theoretically, a little bit.
Jordan, tell us your thoughts about the one burning question that you have for our Tennessee Titans.
Yo, my friends, what's going on? Thanks for having me on the show once again. I think it's pretty obvious, the burning question I have for the Tennessee Titans. The front office has done a tremendous job going out there and surrounding their young quarterback with all the pieces he could want. They redid the offensive line, a new two-headed running back in the backfield, one of the best trios at wideout now in the NFL. My burning question is, can Will Levis prove that he's a franchise quarterback? What is having a successful 2024 season look like where he could convince the front office that they don't have to use that next first-round pick on a quarterback? So that's my burning question, and I think it makes the Titans not only one of the more interesting teams in the AFC South, but one of the more interesting teams in the NFL as well. Because even though Will Levis in the box score did not exactly flash, if you watched his tape, you can certainly say that he flashed. He's got an NFL arm. It sounds like he has an NFL work ethic as well. So it's going to be really fun to see if this young player can go out there and prove that he deserves to be a top 32 quarterback.
Yeah, you know what, Jordan, though? But when you're looking at quarterbacks that have multiple systems that they're trying to get adjusted to, names like Zach Wilson, Jalen Hurts early on in his Philadelphia career, Trey Lance, for goodness sake, I know injuries were a part of that. Josh Rosen lost his job to Kyler Murray. You know, what do you think could be a disadvantage for a guy, or maybe an advantage for someone that hasn't had the consistency of being coached by the same system from one year to the next?
Right. I mean, it's a great question. And there are it's all about your situation, right? Whether it's the coaches that are in your care or the support system around you, but also the confidence that that new regime has in you as well. I mean, there's been plenty of instances of new regimes coming in, and the first thing they want to do is reevaluate the quarterback position and potentially draft someone else to replace the guy who hasn't really gotten a fair shake. The opposite has happened with Will Levis, where, there's a quarterback that this new regime, up front to the media, they say they're really excited about. And they backed up their words by having a tremendous offseason in terms of acquiring new talent, new weaponry, new protection, and a new philosophy on offense in general. I mean, with Brian Callahan, I understand that he's a first-time play caller, but we've talked about it on your show before. What I really like about this guy is not only is he an offensive mind, but he's someone who has worked with a lot of different big-name quarterbacks over the course of their careers, whether that be Peyton Manning, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, the rookie, Joe Burrow, the veteran. So this is someone who, when you listen to him talk in different interviews, he wants to make life easier for the quarterback and work towards their strengths. So that's why Will Levis has a lot of good things going for him, as opposed to someone like a Trey Lance or Zach Wilson.
Jordan Dajani from CBS Sports joins us every single week.
Well, Jordan, thanks for coming on. And naturally, big conversation we've had today is about Treylon Burks. And naturally, we had a little poll question. I'd love to hear what you think about what Treylon Burks, future looks like this upcoming season. Will he be a special teamer, starting wide receiver, or will he be traded, or other? So give us your thoughts on that. Maybe something else. I don't know.
I mean, hey, with the options you gave me, I might just opt for other. Right? I mean, it's been fascinating watching the narratives around Treylon Burks, especially with the national people who don't really follow the Titans. I mean, we go from 1 week where he looks like Terrell Owens and Julio Jones to now all of a sudden he needs to make his mark as a gunner to make the roster, which, again, I don't think exactly is what Brian Callahan said yesterday. And by the way, you want to put my injury-prone receiver that has suffered multiple scary concussions as a gunner? Don't they call that position the flyers, the headhunters, the kamikazes? No, I don't envision Treylon Burks as a gunner, in my opinion. He's not a headhunter. He's someone who should protect his head, if you will. But I understand Brian Callahan's point at large when it comes to, if you're not a starter, if you are wide receiver 4 on the depth chart, then you're going to have to make your impact on special teams. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can make your impact on special teams. I wonder if Treylon Burks will at least get a shot to be a kick returner, not a punt returner, but a kick returner with this new format. I would be kind of interested in that setup. But when it comes to Treylon Burks' outlook, I mean, it's crazy to say, but you have to admit objectively that even though he's wide receiver 4 on the depth chart, there's a possibility he could be set up for a career year. His career year was back his rookie season, 444 yards receiving, just 11 games played. If this is someone who can remain healthy, maybe get a couple starts under his belt if one of the top 3 wide receivers has to miss a game or two due to injury. And now, again, he's working in probably the best offense he's worked in his NFL career with an offensive-minded head coach who might employ somewhat of a pass-happy scheme. There should be different reasons you can make a case for optimism around Treylon Burks, even though he's so down on the depth chart. He's not someone who I see really as a trade candidate because what's his value on the open market? His value on the open market would be for a different front office trying to go off of his college scouting report. So I don't want to be giving up my former first-round pick rookie or wide receiver on a rookie deal for a 7th-round selection. That's just not in my best interest if I'm in the front office. So that's why I don't see Treylon Burks getting traded. But again, if he can stay healthy and pick up the offense and continue his great work ethic, he's someone who could potentially carve out a role for himself in this scheme, whether that's even being a gadget player, but someone who can prove that he's still an NFL player the Tennessee Titans want to keep under their care.
Well, with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports, I guess my next question is, it's kind of seemed like things are changing in NFL outside of quarterback. What would you say are the next 2 most important positions in the NFL?
Well, I would look at the wide receiver for one.
Whoa.
I mean, we just saw Justin Jefferson, break the record for highest paid non-quarterback in the league. I would look at the offensive tackles as well. And it's not just left tackle anymore. It's also right tackle because every single team's got great pass rushers. They can line up in different spots. And the other thing is, we've seen a revolution when it comes to the interior defensive linemen just this offseason. I mean, Chris Jones signed a record-breaking deal. Christian Wilkins signed a massive deal. Justin Madubuike, Derek Brown, all these guys signed their deals this offseason, and they are all top of market. So, I think that Denard Wilson kind of talked about it a little bit in his press conference today. Applying pressure from the inside, not pass rushers, but from the inside. That's where quarterbacks get the most uncomfortable. So when we're talking about important positions in the NFL, the first thing I really do look towards is the money. And those are the positions that are really making bank this offseason.
So you're saying outside of quarterback, it's wide receiver, offensive tackle, and defensive tackle.
I would say so. That's exactly what the money's telling me this offseason.
There you have it. Jordan Dajani giving us the business.
Who is the team to beat in the AFC South, in your opinion, Jordan?
Yeah, I would say probably the Houston Texans. But again, if we're going back to my burning questions piece, my burning question for the Houston Texans is, how can D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick and these guys build on last year's surprising success? I think that their front office has done a great job when it comes to making sure this franchise is on the right track. Something I found really interesting from CBS Sports Research was that this offseason, the Texans became the first team in NFL history to add a player coming off of a season with 100 receptions, 1,000 rushing yards, and 10 sacks. That's Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Daniil Hunter, and even Danico Autry, who had 10 sacks last year as well. No other team in NFL history has added that amount of talent in the same offseason. So that's great, right? Everyone thinks the Texans are going to be this premier team in the AFC that might have a chance to challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. But the games are played during the fall, right? They're not played here in May and June. So really coming together and C.J. Stroud being able to prove that he is a rising star in this league, that he's not some one-year wonder. That's my burning question for the Houston Texans. A lot of people are anticipating a big jump, but they're not the first team a lot of people have anticipated a big jump from that were not able to really live up to those expectations. So in my mind, it is still the Houston Texans. But again, I'm not ruling anyone else out in this division.
Keeping it in the South, Jordan, should the Jacksonville Jaguars, be a little further along now with a talented quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, or what's going on down there?
Yeah, so my burning question for Jacksonville this offseason was, did they really do enough to improve? Did they get better this offseason? Many people want to make the headlines about Trevor Lawrence and him being a franchise quarterback and his looming extension. I'm kind of sold on him as an up and coming good starter in this league. So I'm not really worried about him in terms of being a franchise quarterback, but I'm looking at everything else around him. I mean, you lose your leading receiver in Calvin Ridley, replace him with Gabe Davis, who is just kind of a big target to stretch the field. He's not a route runner extraordinaire like Calvin Ridley. You drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU in the first round. Maybe he's a stud, but regardless, losing Calvin Ridley is certainly a big loss. The offensive line has gotten worked over pretty well. I like where they're sitting at there. But defensively is where I thought Jacksonville was let down several times last year. I think they had the 7th worst pass defense. I think they were bottom 11 in total defense as well. Did they get better this year, especially in the secondary? You know, they lost some notable names at cornerback and safety this offseason. How much more improved does that defense have to be for this team to make it back to the playoffs? But with Trevor Lawrence continuing to get better and better, under the leadership of Doug Peterson, Travis Etienne, one of the more intriguing weapons in the NFL, in my opinion, the Jaguars are still going to be a formidable opponent.
Jordan, does the rest of the NFL see the trio here that we have in Tennessee in the wide receiver room? Do they see it as formidable as we see it here locally?
You know, I think they do. I think they do because, and the reason I can say that is because the signings of Calvin Ridley and the signings of Tony Pollard and Lloyd Cushenberry, whoever it may be, that didn't move the needle nationally to people I know who don't really follow the Tennessee Titans too closely. But the signing of Tyler Boyd was finally when that needle started to move because people realized that Tennessee had arguably the best trio of wideouts that they've ever had in franchise history. You know, if we're power ranking some of these trios around the NFL, I think most people would have to admit that the Titans rank somewhere in that top 3. You know, I like the Houston Texans trio better on paper, in my opinion, but the Titans, they're in that top 3. And again, that's why there's starting to be more noise around Will Levis, Brian Callahan, maybe the Titans in general. I think that people definitely look at the trio of wide receivers we have here in Nashville as one that's going to be a difference maker.
We're on with CBS Sports' very own Jordan Dajani.
Yes, Jordan, man, we're seeing more and more non-football players get a shot to play in the National Football League. We're talking about lacrosse, wrestling. Now as a kid, gold medalist Gabe Stevenson actually getting a shot with the Bills. Is this a trend, and what do you think the odds are he's going to make the roster, or at least maybe the practice squad?
Yeah, it's a good question by you because I've definitely noticed that as of late. I think I even tweeted that, you know, the Bills are out here grabbing lacrosse players and wrestlers trying to keep up in the AFC after having to cut so much talent this offseason. Hey. Yeah, but, you know, Gable Stevenson, I think he's going to try to play defensive line. You look at pictures of him, he looks like an absolute beast. So it comes down to your technique, you know, inside the trenches there. It's easier said than done, I'll tell you that. I don't know if this is someone who can make the roster. The same with these lacrosse players, the guys who are really unique movers in pads. And I think they have a lacrosse player who was a really, really good player who played in a couple of different professional leagues. I'm blanking on his name, but he's someone who's playing linebacker for the Bills, I believe. So, you know, you've got to credit the front office for going out there and trying to find unique ways to acquire unique talent. But again, I think it's pretty tough for players who have not played a lot of football before to make a 53-man roster here in the NFL.
Well, next on the docket is wondering, and we're just wondering, if Justin Fields beats out Russell Wilson, will the sky fall? What will happen? It could happen. I don't know. I mean, man.
Yeah, the sky might fall for Russell Wilson. I'll tell you that. I mean, there's only so many hits your ego can take after what happened leaving Seattle. But
no doubt.
You know, it's interesting. Like there's people out there who don't think this is a quarterback competition. But I've told you guys that I think everything's a quarterback competition when you're bringing in 2 new guys who have a lot of starts under their belt. But the question that I have is, I do agree that Pittsburgh brought in Russ to be their quote unquote QB1, but he has to be bad enough for Justin Fields to get a look, right? Justin Fields can absolutely blow the staff out of their water with his play during training camp, and that's a different avenue to win the quote-unquote competition. But under Pittsburgh's scheme, with Arthur Smith, who's going to rely heavily on running the ball and making those safe passes, if you will, is Russell Wilson going to be bad enough to warrant a benching? Because I thought he was pretty bad with Denver, and it took them quite a long time to look elsewhere at quarterback. So that's really the question I have is like, is Russell Wilson going to improve with this change of scenery? Is he going to stay the same, or could he even regress in this new scheme as an older player? So that's certainly one of the interesting storylines to watch this offseason / preseason.
And lastly for me, C.J. Stroud, man, I don't know if he's throwing shade on Aaron Rodgers, but he was asked the question on some podcast about, Aaron Rodgers versus Eli Manning. Who would you pick or whose career? Matthew Stafford better than Aaron Rodgers. And, how does Aaron Rodgers treat his teammates and all these things? So I'm like, man, what did you think when you heard it, or did you even hear that?
No, I'm with you. I thought for some reason C.J. Stroud is out here taking shots at Aaron Rodgers. That's what it felt like. I will tell you this. I didn't think it was weird he chose Eli Manning's career over Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Eli Manning has a case to be a Hall of Famer, and he's won multiple Super Bowls. Being that guy to take down the Patriots dynasty a couple times was pretty unique, pretty epic. So that didn't rub me the wrong way. But he did talk about something about teammates, right? When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, not being as good of a teammate, if you will. So that is something that definitely had my ears perk up. I thought that was a little weird, but man, C.J. Stroud is out here letting it fly. He wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, and all of a sudden he's going to be a figure in the NFL taking shots at some of the best. So we'll see if he can back it up here in 2024.
But, Jordan, why would you expect anything else from what he was able to accomplish in a short period of time? This was a rookie that made everybody feel like he was a veteran. He's reaching out to both sides of the football. He's taking dudes out to dinner. He's not acting like a first-year dude.
But he's supposed to still be humble.
It's a fine balance, right? You got to find a fine balance with these players like that. I mean, I'm certainly not saying C.J. Stroud is some cocky guy. I'm not saying that at all. But to your point, Blaine, like you are someone who has to remain humble in this league because your opportunities can be gone at any single time, right? I mean, we've seen players we thought were going to be phenoms moving forward and stars for a long time not turn out that way. Quick. So I'm not saying that's going to be C.J. Stroud. He's certainly a talented guy with a bright future ahead of him. But yeah, I don't know. I would have probably handled myself a little bit differently on a podcast talking about other men and how they forge relationships in the locker room. I'll put it that way.
Well, Denard Wilson said that basically confident players aren't scared. So scared money don't make no money. But hey, let me ask you this, because we did mention 3 other teams in the AFC South. How about that 4th team, the one that we took their quarterback out part of the way through the season? He didn't finish the year. I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts. Is this a team that we should be concerned about since we play them twice a year in the division?
It's funny. I remember being on the show with Blaine right before that Colts game, and we were talking about how can Tennessee defeat Indianapolis. And I said, well, Anthony Richardson loves to do this thing where he takes a bunch of hits. So I said the Titans defense should oblige and deliver the lumber on Anthony Richardson. And sure enough, that was the last game he played. So that was my burning question for the Colts entering 2024. Man, I know that I bring this up probably every week with you guys, but talking to people around the league, it's like they're almost looking past this. I mean, Richardson only playing one or finishing one game in his rookie season is extremely worrisome. So we're all trying to figure out, is he going to be this Cam Newton clone, or is he going to be someone like Jake Locker who struggles to stay on the field and reach his potential? That's going to be the biggest thing for the Indianapolis Colts, because I don't know if Joe Flacco can come out there and be the reigning comeback player of the year for Indianapolis. But I mean, I do think that the Colts have a lot of good things going for them, especially when it comes for the run game with Jonathan Taylor. They got Michael Pittman Jr. back in the mix. A.D. Mitchell, someone who's going to make an immediate impact. But, man, if you do not have Anthony Richardson under center healthy, the Colts are absolutely not going to reach the ceiling of what they can be.
Last thing from us, Jordan, I saw where Dylan Radins had a conversation with Bill Callahan in the very beginning, and it's on the depth chart that he's playing right tackle, but Bill told him he's going to be playing interior, he's going to be playing guard, so he decided to go ahead and muscle up and do some things like that. Is that what you're hearing too?
Good question. I haven't heard about that at all, actually. I must have missed that press conference, but I did think that he was going to be on tackle, but if he's going to be on the inside at guard, that kind of has me asking a couple of questions. I mean, who is the favorite to start at right guard, right? Is it Daniel Brunskill? Is it Radins? Is it one of these new guys? Is it Sadiq Charles coming in from the Washington Commanders? So we might have a 3-man competition on the inside if that's true. What
about that right tackle spot? Do you see maybe even a Nicholas Petit-Ferrer or we got a guy in here, John Ojukwu. He's a free agent basically from college last year. Do you think he possibly has a shot?
Duncan.
Or Jalen Duncan, right?
Yeah, without me being in the building as a coach, I think NPF would probably be the favorite at right tackle. But again, I thought Radens would be someone who's competing on that outside. Maybe Tennessee lets him get reps at both spots. That'd be wise in my opinion. OJ, maybe. I mean, he's someone who made a bit of headlines last year in OTAs, I believe. What about that Leroy Watson guy that Tennessee traded for? Is he strictly a left tackle?
Yeah, from Cleveland.
If so, then Jalen Duncan is someone who's going to get reps on the right side as well.
You have been awesome as always, Jordan. We can't wait to catch up to you next week.
Awesome. You guys are the best. Thank you.
All right.
JD.
From CBS Sports, and you can see him on at Jordan Dajani, is Dajani on X, if you want to see more of his poetic waxings, which he does a terrific job of. Blaine and I will be back to wrap up the last segment of our show, so stick around. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We'll be right back. Terrence Howard is one of my favorite actors. Also, is one of the smartest dudes on the planet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't know this song. Anyway.
See, this is what I'm doing. As I'm learning you two, I'm like, all right, I got a good reaction from you on that one.
Yeah.
Save it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Hustle and flow, baby. Yeah. Memphis' finest. Anyway, final segment of the show. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins, and we have had a bevy of topics that we've unpacked today, especially with the Titans mini camps going on. We're on the eve of the finals starting, the Celtics and the Mavericks. That's going to be a barn burner to watch. Hey, B, have you lost focus a little bit about the NBA since this long break?
Oh, you know that was my ding dong.
Yeah, that was your ding dong. Yeah.
I'm like, dang, where the game? Is the season over? Oh, the finals haven't started
right,
yet.
Exactly.
It's tomorrow at 7:30 Central Time. I just seen it on TV right now.
Yeah.
Mavericks at Celtics.
I feel like I'm about to disrespect Ron Slay by saying this, but right now on Hulu, there's a new series about the LA Clippers and Donald Sterling. Okay, there's only 4 of the 6 episodes out right now.
What's that?
But I've already gotten through 2 of them.
It's called Clipped.
It's called Clipped. I've enjoyed that more than I've enjoyed the entire NBA season.
I don't like Al Bundy playing a bad guy, though.
It's so weird, and he's so creepy, and you also get LeVar Burton in a sauna with his shirt off. It's so weird.
I'll take Lawrence Fishburne as a basketball coach. He can pull that off.
Oh, yeah. No, but
if Samuel L. Jackson can do it and Coach Carter, I think that Lawrence Fishburne can do it.
But that's going back to what you're asking. But the NBA Finals, it is starting. It is starting.
Right?
It is starting tomorrow. I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more because obviously there's not a game tonight to be played, but tomorrow I'm sure that we'll get into it since this is going to be a pretty good matchup when you're talking about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum versus Kyrie Irving and, of course, Luka Doncic. I mean, unbelievable matchup that we're seeing here in Dallas and Boston. I don't think that there could have been a better series. I'm not sure that Minnesota would have put up a fight, like the Mavericks would have against the Celtics. It seemed like this is the Celtics series to lose. I don't know if anybody else's thoughts are like that, but it just kind of seems to be that way. And
we shall see. We shall see.
And of course, on Friday we've got the Vols taking the mound. Finally, getting ready to play the Evansville Aces, and that's kind of in Blaine's backyard a little bit, Evansville, Indiana.
No, it ain't in my backyard. That's like 5
hours.
5 hours from Indy.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Is it closer to us than it is to Indianapolis?
Yes.
It is closer to us than it is to Indianapolis.
I think it's like 4 hours.
It's closer to us than what Louisville is to us.
Yeah. Louisville's only 2 hours.
Not that, from downtown Nashville.
Yeah, from downtown Nashville to there is so odd. When you look at it on a map, Evansville is closer to us than what Louisville is.
Real quick, B, we just asked Jordan Dajani the question about C.J. Stroud, and his comments were kind of polarizing. I guess it just depends how you took what he said. But he was talking about Aaron Rodgers and basically making the statement that if Matthew Stafford had the receivers, had the teammates that Aaron Rodgers would have had, then he would have had multiple championships as a Lion. Do you agree with that or not?
Yeah, that's a tough. It's hard for somebody to predict that. I would not ever, and I like C.J. Stroud, and I think he's got the right personality and everything. He did some ding-dongery here in this dang-on interview.
I'm sorry, he did some what?
Ding-dongery. He did some ding-dongery in this interview that it kind of blows me away, and I'm disappointed. I'm a little disappointed in him because I had a lot of respect. I've talked to some people there in Houston where he carries himself as a veteran player, is mature, and he did some immature things here on a podcast that you answer it, but you don't answer it. He didn't know Aaron Rodgers' teammates. He probably haven't even talked. He's going by hearsay. So let's start there. And by the way, we all know how this league goes. You put that shoe on the next year, you may not be as good. See? And then the thing can twirl right back around on you. See? So you just kind of play it down the vest and be humble and say, hey, man, I wouldn't have an idea, but both of those guys are super talented. I hope I can, live up to the expectations that they lived up to. That's how you kind of, you don't answer the question. You just don't. I don't care how you answer, but you just don't answer that question. You don't do that. And then he started picking. Like, Matthew Stafford probably is a better talent, but man, he hadn't won any Super Bowls. You don't know what was going on in those locker rooms. I have no idea myself.
It's just funny that as soon as Matthew Stafford leaves Detroit, guess what? He wins the championship.
But he did, didn't he?
He sure
did. He had put up a lot of yards, so he was very talented, and he had better pieces around him. So you could see how potentially that could happen. I don't know, man. It's just, I wouldn't want to be part of those kind of conversations. That's like saying, is Larry Allen, the great Allen, who passed away in Mexico, we don't know what the situation was he a number 1 guard that's in the Hall of Fame, or is he a top 5 guard in the NFL history? See, so that's kind of like, ooh, I don't know. All we do is know he was a bad man because he was in our era.
Yeah.
But we don't know what was before us. I mean, really, that people talked about like that.
I would never put him in front of Mike Munchak. Never. Never.
Blaine, what'd you say you do to his ankles?
I think you're biased
again?
there.
What was that you said yesterday that you do to his ankles?
What would you do to his ankles?
I'll be got the scrappy dog, man. It's that scrappy dog that is all bark and no bite. Yeah, that would be me.
Tomorrow we've got Buck Rising, and we've got the voice of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Keith, will be joining the show. Yeah.
The Vought.
The who?
Yeah, that's what you don't know. They call him the Vought. Oh man, you didn't play for the Titans. You didn't play for the Titans.
I got to find out more about that. That's going to do it for us right here. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins.
But in the meantime,
and in between time, peace.